It's Tuesday, September 17th, 2019. So tomorrow, the Fed's going to come out and either cut rates or not cut rates. I believe the Fed will cut rates 25 basis points. Please comment down below. Let me know your predictions. Will the Fed cut tomorrow or will they not cut? And how much will they cut if they do? I believe we will get a cut. I believe it will be 25 basis points. Please comment down below and let me know what you think. As we head into tomorrow, as the Fed, I believe, will be cutting rates. I'm going to go 97% on that. I believe they will cut rates. You know, as we go into tomorrow, there are some terms floating around that are very disturbing. We're hearing terms like Farmageddon, Carmageddon, retail apocalypse. Now we have Repo collapse, and talking about the repo market. And here in Zero Hedge, I paraphrase through this article a little bit. When the set Fed funds rate is at 2 to 2.25, ideally you would like funding to be around 2.15. For weeks, it's been above that. Today, funding opened at 4.5, quickly moving to 10, then dropped to 2.5, nothing close to 2.15. So you've lost control of where you want financing. Overnight financing is key to driving the economy leverage. If you don't have control of it, what's the point of setting a Fed's fund rate? So very interesting article on the repo market. And is it another bellwether that they are losing control? Again, as we hear these different terms too, it's another reason why I believe they have to cut rates tomorrow. I don't know how they continue to justify all this, telling us how good things are when we're hearing about Carmageddon, Farmageddon, retail apocalypses, and repocalypses. So again, they're telling us, they're telling you, they're telling me everything is good, yet cutting rates, I believe they will cut again tomorrow, running out of more ammo. And if they don't cut rates, the markets are going to have a big bad day tomorrow. They're going to be in big trouble. So I believe they have to cut rates, because if they don't, the markets are going to react very, very negatively. And these markets are dependent on these rate cuts. And you can expect another rate cut in December. And by doing so, the Fed is going to continue to run out of ammo. When we are officially in this recession, it's already begun, ladies and gentlemen, we're in it. But once the government officially tells you we're in it, they're not going to have any ammo to fight it. So you better be preparing, because it's coming. Markets that live by the Fed die by the Fed. The Fed is the market. The Fed is the stock market. The Fed is the bond market. The Fed is the real estate market. The Fed is the art market. The Fed is the commercial real estate market. The Fed is controlling all these markets. These markets are in all-time record giant bubbles, and the Fed continues to inflate these bubbles even more. These bubbles are dangerously overinflated, and the more that the Fed inflates these bubbles, the worse this disaster is going to be. The worse this collapse is going to be for every one of you. It's going to be bad for me, no matter how prepared you are. But the more they can inflate these bubbles, the bigger the explosion, the bigger the burst is going to be, the bigger the repercussions and the destruction of these bubbles. Because if a bubble's this big compared to a bubble this big, which one do you think is going to do more damage? Of course, the bigger the bubble, the bigger the explosion, the more damage. And we continue to see these markets driven solely by the Fed. The Fed, the central bank, they create money and distribute it to the financial sector of the financiers and the corporations, the richest of the rich. You're not seeing this. Eventually, you will. Eventually, the masses are going to wake up, because they're going to be so broke. It's going to be so obvious and apparent the damage that the Fed has done. The Fed is only helping out the 1%. The 99% are not getting the help. And the 99% are going to be the ones that really, really feel the pain when these bubbles burst, when this collapse, this economic collapse occurs. Many people will wake up to the fact that the Fed is not your friend. The Fed is your enemy. Your president did not create these bubbles. Your president did not create this economy. the Fed did, the Federal Reserve did. The Fed can create depressions, it can create recessions. They know exactly what's going on, and they are going to be the sole reason what triggers this economic collapse. Not your president. It is going to be the central bank, the Federal Reserve. The only power the Fed has is incentivizing profiteering via stock buybacks and speculations of the super wealthy. It's creating an age of obscene wealth inequality. And I think most of you watching this realize that and know that. There's a very, very small group of people that are worth massive amounts of money. There's a very small group of people that, have half the world's wealth, a very small group of people. And if you are not preparing for what is coming, you need to start thinking like the central bankers. You need to think like the elite. You need to be solely dependent on yourself. That's why you need to have hard tangible assets, gold and silver. That's why you need to have security. That's why you need to have food and water. How many of these CEOs and these big bankers and these elite have, bunkers out in New Zealand or out in Australia, or ranches out in Montana, or ranches out in Idaho, and bunkers? They're self-sufficient. They have water, they have food, they have gold, they have silver, and they have security. They're preparing. They know the minute something happens, they're going to get on a plane, they're going to fly to their island, they're going to fly to their bunker, they're going to fly to their ranch, and they're going to be there with their security, with their food, with their cattle, with their fish farms, with their water, with their gold, with their silver. While the average Joe will probably be wandering through, a shopping mall somewhere that's on its last legs, or watching a football game, or smoking dope. So you better get awake to what's happening, because we're getting very, very close to really seeing some serious pain here in the financial sector here in America. I don't care if they cut tomorrow or they don't cut, because I know where this is all going. It doesn't even matter to me. What matters is that you take every day and you continue to prepare. What is happening on the stock market is pretty much, should be absent from what you're even thinking. We talk about it daily. I like to talk about it. It's interesting to follow because we're waiting till they can no longer fool the market, till they can no longer have this influence and manipulation and control of these markets. And that's when it's going to get really crazy. But you're watching these markets right now fighting this a little bit. They're not buying this BS as much as they used to. Silver is up over 18, gold is back up over 15. They're not knocking the metals down like they used to. But again, nothing will happen with the metals until we see chaos, until we see reality coming back to the markets. 15, 16, 18, $20 silver is nothing. We will see $50, $75, $100, $200 silver. We're going to see, $5,000 gold, maybe $10,000 gold, maybe more. So, losing 50 cents in a day or making 50 cents in a day in silver is nothing. Don't even think about it like that. You need to be stockpiling tangible hard assets like gold and silver, not thinking about the cost of them, especially in dollar terms. They are going to have massive buying power when these markets collapse. We may not even have a dollar at that point. The only thing that will be important or relevant financially are going to be gold and silver. But as I preach to you on a daily basis, make sure you have security. If you do not have security, people will take your water, your food, your gold, your silver. They'll take everything you have if you cannot protect it, especially the safety of your family members. So make sure your number one asset is security. Again, I don't care what they do tomorrow. What matters is we take every day, we continue to prepare. This whole thing's an illusion, but it's on borrowed time, and it's going to come to a very, very ugly dead end. There's people out there that continue to write in the comments here and there that this is doom and gloom, this is fear porn, it's the same message. No, the message changes daily, but unfortunately the message isn't positive. It's not what they want to hear. If you call me up one day and you say, hey, JB, how's the weather? And I stick my head out the window and I go, it's 122 degrees. It's miserable. You call me in another day and I tell you it's pouring down rain, it's cloudy, it's cold. You call me on another day, maybe it's 84 degrees, sunny, not a cloud in the sky, beautiful, you want to come in and jump in the pool. Listen, I'm just reporting to you what the weather is doing. Don't blame the messenger, okay? If it's cloudy, cold, or if it's 122 degrees and nasty and muggy, it is what it is. I have no control over the weather. You called me and I'm telling you what the weather is. I can't lie to you if the weather's good or bad. I'm just telling you the truth. So don't blame the messenger. It's not fear porn, it's not doom and gloom. It's reality. I'm telling you what the weather is. I'm telling you what the weather of this economy is doing. And I'm telling you on a daily basis some of the newest updates of what's happening in the economy. And how about this? Here's an update that just came out a couple hours ago. Fedex shares are down 8% after hours. You didn't hear that yesterday. You didn't hear it last week. You just heard it right now because it just happened. It's not doom and gloom. It's not fear porn. It's reality. And too many of you people who want to call it fear porn and doom and gloom, you cannot live in reality. You don't want to face reality. You just want to have life as a party. You just want to think everything's going to be okay, that it's going to be blue skies, rainbows, puffy white clouds, and teddy bears. The real world doesn't work like that. We got a lot of freaking ugly weather coming, and it's coming our way right now. FedEx shares down 8% after hours, following a cut to its earnings outlook. That's reality. Another reason why we will probably get a rate cut tomorrow, because the reality is this economy sucks. This economy is in terrible condition. It's not doing as well as they're telling you. It's terrible. Operating results declined primarily due to weakening global economic conditions. Do you understand that? It's not doom, it's not gloom. It's today, it's what's happening, it's reality. Life can't be a party every day. This is reality. And the storm is approaching, and guess what? It's going to get much, much worse than this. So for those people out there who can't even handle this, you haven't seen anything yet. Wait till the real dark storm clouds get here. You don't have to worry about storms and bad weather if you prepare for it. Unfortunately, most people aren't going to be prepared for what's coming. They don't want to prepare for it. They just want to ignore it. They want life to, their little bubble, their little lives to continue to go on as they are. And right now, if they're not being affected by it, it's not their problem, it's yours. But I can assure you, it's going to be their problem very, very shortly. What happens if US growth continues to slow? What if fuel costs continue to rise like we're starting to see? What if global economic conditions weaken even more than they are now? What if retail gets worse? What if the auto industry gets worse? What if the housing issue gets worse? They are hoping right now to just hold this thing steady, and they are hoping that none of this gets worse. These markets and this Fed cannot afford for any of this to get any worse. It's going to get worse, and this is when they lose control. They are not going to be able to control what happens in the housing market. They can lower mortgage rates all they want. It's not going to stop the housing crash. It's not going to stop the commercial real estate crash. It's not going to stop the stock market crash or the bond crash. They are losing control. They're hanging on for dear life, but it's inevitable at some point they will lose control. They are buying time right now. They're running out of ammo, ladies and gentlemen, and you better get prepared. How about this? U.S. industrial production, 0.4% year over year, the weakest since January of 2017. And do you really think, with what I'm telling you right now, things are going to get better? What's going to make things better? What's going to increase manufacturing production in America? What is going to increase the housing market or the commercial real estate market? What's going to increase the auto industry? 7 million people severely delinquent on auto loans, $1.6 trillion in student loan debt. What's going to improve all this? What's going to help Chicago and Illinois get out of their bankruptcy? What's going to help the United States of America, $22.5 trillion in bankruptcy? What's going to get us out of bankruptcy? We don't make anything here. We're making consumption. People are living on credit cards. People are buying things on borrowed money. How are things going to get fixed? Tell me, what got fixed since 2008 after the crash, after the bailout? What got fixed? We're right back where we started, except we have twice the debt. And we're committing the same behavior that got us into the mess of 2008. Now we have subprime auto loans. We're seeing subprime loans coming back into the real estate market. They're doing every little thing. They're getting creative. They're trying every little trick in the book. They're going back to the old playbook of 2005 and 6, and they're implementing it into the auto sector. They're bringing it back into the housing sector. Now, we've got the repo market, falling apart. It's one thing after another. Every day, something else is giving out. There's another bolt coming off the car, another wheel, breaking loose off the car, and we are driving off the road and we're going right off the cliff. Things are going to get very ugly here in America. Again, doesn't matter what the stock market does. It doesn't matter what they do with the rates tomorrow. What matters is that you are preparing, because we know where this all ends. It's going to end in a very bad place for many people. Don't be a victim of this. Make sure you're prepared and that you're ready to prosper and survive it. So I'm going to wrap it up right here. Before I go, I want to share one story with you. Had a good friend of mine, Sid, called me today. And while he's on the phone, I'm reading this article, and he tells me that he's driving through Palm Desert, California being a very affluent area. He informed me that a shoe store in the area that had been there many, many years had just recently closed down, and that while he's driving through the area, he could not believe the amount of vacancies in Palm Desert. He could not believe the amount of for sale signs and for lease signs in the store windows, in the commercial buildings, for sale, for lease, absolutely vacated. Blown away. And the shoe store closing, another one that bites the dust in Palm Desert. And I'm reading this article. It's right in front of me while I'm talking to him. Zero Hedge, Retail Apocalypse 2019 store closures. Retailers are dealing with massive debt loads. And the scary thing here is, as the retailers deal with these massive debt loads, the consumer is dealing with his or her own massive debt load. And so this is an awful, deadly formula when the retailer is loaded with massive debt and the consumer is loaded with massive debt. It's a formula for destruction. And it's a reason why Sid witnessed so many vacant stores today, so many vacant commercial buildings, because the retailer has taken on too much debt, the consumer has taken on too much debt, and they are being annihilated. Bankruptcies for retailers right now are at a crisis level. I'm going to go through a quick list here with you before I go, of a couple of the stores that have filed for bankruptcy. Charlotte Russe, Chapter 11, 426 U.S. stores closing. 8,700 employees will be without a job. They're $129 million in debt. Charlotte Russe, when I was at a mall in Riverside last week, I was unaware, but Charlotte Russe was actually an anchor store at that mall. So apparently they have pretty big stores. You lose an anchor store at a big mall, it's going to be more trouble. Kona Grill filed BK, $33 million in debt. They blame aggressive growth, cost cuts, and stock buybacks for its poor finances. They had 46 restaurants in 2017. They're down to 27, and they are on borrowed time. Gymboree, they're $212 million in debt. Diesel USA, $10 million in debt. So the real scary thing here is going into December and Christmas sales. Christmas sales look dismal, at least from what I'm reading, the numbers and the information that I'm gathering. Christmas sales look dismal for the retail sector. And what's really sad are these small business owners, like the ones down in Palm Desert, the ones that Sid called me today and just said they're gone. We're losing stores. The mom and pop stores are going to really feel the wrath here as the consumer is getting tapped out. As the wealthy now are not spending, they're pulling back because they understand what's happening. Most of the wealthy people, they're wealthy for a reason. They understand, they see what's coming. Much more savvy than the average Joe Blow who's drinking, beer every night, watching football games, smoking dope, watching reality TV. And God knows what most people are doing now, just oblivious, living in their own little bubbles, not a care in the world. Just as long as they have their football, their beer, and their dope, they don't care. While the savvy people, the savvy individual, the wealthy, the educated, the awake, they see what's coming. Not all, but most. Whereas most Americans, the most average Americans, are absolutely asleep at the wheel. And unfortunately, they're going to pay a very dear price when they wake up and find out that while they were asleep at the wheel, the car drove off of a cliff, and now you're in big trouble. But getting back to what I was saying, the mom and pop retail stores, whether they're out here in Palm Desert or they're in your area, they are going to suffer really severe casualties as this collapse continues to worsen. And we're seeing the evidence of that out here right now, even in the wealthy areas, maybe even more so in the wealthy areas. But as I continue to drive through areas, I saw an Aaron's Brothers, they rent furniture and TVs and all that, out of business. I saw a dollar store out of business. I'm seeing the car lots piled with automobiles as far as the eye can see. RV lots, mountain high, just piles of RVs, mountain high piles of RVs. It's staggering. Look, you don't even have to read this stuff to see what's going on. Just use your own two eyes. Go look at a car lot, an RV lot. Go drive down and look at your retail shopping centers. Look at your malls. Take a look at what's going on. The proof is in the pudding. Reality is real, and we're starting to see it, and they can no longer hide that. Make sure you're preparing. Make sure you're walking close to God. Make sure you're working on your security. And, continue to wake your friends up, your family members, your churches. Listen, most people aren't going to listen to you. We know that. But most of all, make sure that you're awake and make sure that you're educating yourself and that you're updating yourself with what's going on. Don't listen to me. Make sure you validate everything that I'm telling you. Verify these numbers and these statistics that I'm giving you. Whoever you listen to, make sure that you do your due diligence and that you verify that these numbers, that these stories are true. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm just here sharing with you what I'm doing and what I'm seeing, at least what I'm seeing here in Riverside County, San Bernardino, Orange County, areas that I frequent quite a bit. I'm just here to share with you what's going on. And if you want to prepare for that, great. If you don't, great. But I'm not going to feel sorry for anybody when this collapse breaks loose, because I'm doing everything I can right now to share with you what I'm seeing and what I feel in my heart is coming. You can take that and do something with it and prepare, or you can ignore it and keep smoking dope, drinking beer, and watching football and not preparing and just being oblivious, living in your little bubble, living in your little fantasy world. That's fine. But when the crash happens, nobody's going to feel sorry for you. So I'm going to leave it right there. God bless every one of you. Thanks for watching. Make sure you share this video and make sure that you're praying for this country, and make sure that you continue to wake up your friends, your family members, your churches. Listen, not everybody's going to listen to you. I get it. But if you wake one person up, you did a great thing. We need to wake up as many people as possible, because America is going to need good people. God bless every one of you. Have a phenomenal week. Talk to you very soon.